Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 19 of Road to Greatness. And we are coming to the start of the fourth week of prep. And to think that next week will mean that we are 20% of the way through is pretty incredible. And we had some great wins this week. This week was actually Christmas. And that was a great success from the sense of prep. We stayed on point with food. I had a really great time with family and enjoyed the holiday and festive period as it's meant to be, shared with those that I loved and making awesome memories with them. We played some games Christmas Eve, had some really great conversations Christmas Day with more family, and the same went for Christmas Day dinner, as there was 3 events this year. So awesome on that front. On top of that, getting into prep itself, we broke into the 70 kilo territory, even during a festive season. So lowest weigh-in so far has been 79.3. And I was at a point where I was considering pulling down food, or at least my coach and I were considering pulling food away. But I had an intuition that I'm due for a drop. We had been dieting for a good couple of weeks where weight was fairly stable, and realized, okay, maybe we do have to pull down food. But again, intuitively, I was like, no, I'm due for a drop. I'm waiting for the hammer to fall. And that's exactly what happened. On Friday of this week, being Boxing Day, I was 80.7. And this morning was when I had the weigh in of 79.3. So it all flushed away. And I believe I may get another low weigh in tomorrow morning, depending just on how things go. We'll see what happens. But a big thing when it comes to not pulling calories and having a bit of a knee-jerk response is just knowing, liking, and trusting yourself. That for me was a big thing, although I was still very much going to pull food anyway to continue with this dieting trend. I know it wasn't the initial response that I needed because I understand me, because I'm in tune with my intuition. And that comes from simply having a more positive internal state that makes me show up and understand who I am. And I guess what I wanted to share is how I came to know, like, and trust myself. Right. And it first started with improving my physical state. So I stopped doing things that were not great for my physical well-being. I stopped drinking, stopped stress eating. The main thing for me as well was actually getting to sleep. I was getting, on average, I'd say 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night, staying awake till midnight, getting back up at 5 a.m. to go to work, that kind of thing. It wasn't great. Did that for a couple of years. There were times where I actually fell asleep behind the wheel driving, so would not recommend that. But after changing my physical state and actually taking care of me, it gave me the energy and the bandwidth to start actually looking into and thinking better about my mental state. All right. So what I mean by that is by actually moving my body daily, be that I was training or doing some other activity, eating food that nourished my body. A lot of that for me was fruits, was veggies, it was meat, it was yogurt, rice and beans and all these other, like, just healthy, nutrient-rich foods that made me feel better, and actually getting decent sleep along with not drinking alcohol, of course. And again, not necessary. I just found it helpful. And that was the unlock that I needed before I could actually get into my mental state. All right. And I was able to finally connect with parts of myself that I had neglected and really study all of my traits and behaviors. Why do I do what I do? Where do all my beliefs come from? Right? And I did this with many strategies, such as journaling, breath work, and in small phases, even counseling. I'm not super deep into therapy culture, But I look at it, but I look at it similar to an accountant who keeps track of my finances. So why would I not seek the support of a professional to help me walk through my beliefs, to help me walk through my mind? And if I hold a belief that doesn't serve me, how can I change it or develop a new one in exchange for the one that I currently have? Holding a belief that is limiting or one that I don't like can certainly make life harder than it needs to be. It can also make it really, really hard for me to like myself. And once I have spent enough time working through my thoughts, and for anyone curious, it took me about 6 months from when I started working on my mental state. So think of this as very much long-term strategy. I spent 4 months working on my physical state, getting myself in a good spot. And then 6 months after that is when I saw the return on investment from working on my mental state. All right. And that's when I had gotten to a point where I trusted myself because I was showing up in a way that felt authentic to me. I wasn't trying to be anyone else. I wasn't doing it for something in return. I wasn't doing it for the most part because I was told to. I was doing it because I believed it was right. And so it was through those phases of improving my physical state so that I had the energy and capacity to tap into my mental and emotional state that allowed me to step into the most authentic version of myself. I talk about this a lot, not to be a parrot, but because I see how much influence someone's sense of self and their relationship to themselves and how it impacts how they show up in the world, right? How well they take care of themselves, how successful they are in achieving whatever goals they choose to follow or strive towards, how resilient or anti-fragile they are. These are, these can all be coming or stemming from the relationship they have with themselves and the world around them, right? It's a reflection of what they see in the mirror. That's the energy that they will continue to emit, right? And the real nail in the coffin, you could say, for me with this was that the only person you're stuck with from the day you're born to the day you die is you, right? And so with that in mind, it makes sense to get to know them because they're you. And a running joke I have with people now is they ask us, what do you think of yourself, Elijah? I say, I'd buy me a beer. I wouldn't drink it, but I'd buy me a beer. And with that, I hope you guys get a lot of value from this episode. It was a bit of a rant, and I'd love to hear if you prefer these types of episodes. So please do like, rate, subscribe, review. It's great to see you guys tuning in, and I'd love to hear more from you. But with that, I will catch you all next week. Take care. We'll talk then.